Sometimes God will show us a particular aspect of his character at a specific point in our lives so that we can later remember who he is and what he can do. Let me share my testimony with you. I haven't really said this testimony to anyone apart from my friends, but I was reminded this morning that when God shows us his goodness, it is our job to share that with others. In 2022, I was still a teacher. I was just about to quit this job to pursue content creation full time. That's another story for another day. And I was a tenant living in my childhood home. And at the time, my dad had decided he wanted to sell the home that me and my partner were living in, meaning it was time for us to venture into the big scary world of private renting. And if you know anything about finding a home, in London specifically, whether you're renting, whether you want to buy, this process is costly. It's a spenny process. Mind you, I was living in zone 2. I was paying £500 for rent. It was a 2-bedroom flat. You're just not going to find that kind of deal out there. So already I was very anxious. I was nervous. I was thinking, I don't know how this is going to work out. Anyway, I put our need and anxiety, I just gave it to God. I put it in prayer and did what I was supposed to do as a Christian girl. And after searching for a while and scanning the market, we realized that our budget probably can only allow us to take a 1-bedroom flat. And we were okay with that because essentially that meant we could still stay in London and we could save some of our money. We found a flat not too long after and we put down, what you're meant to put down. Now this flat itself, I'm not going to lie. It was tiny. It was very, very small. And what they were asking us to pay for it against what we were getting, it wasn't making sense. Around that time, I'd gone to my esthetician, shout out True Skin Clinic, for a treatment. And we were just catching up, as you do, talking about what was going on in my life. And she was like, oh, you're moving out? You should definitely look at this scheme. And we'd literally just put down a deposit on the flat, the 1-bedroom flat. I didn't even think anything of it. I was just like, okay, girl, thank you so much. But I went home, I told my partner about it and we applied anyway. But like I said, we didn't think anything of it. We did not even think at the time that we were eligible for the scheme. Not long after, I was due to go to Nigeria because it was my grandma's funeral and we got a call from the letting agency of the 1-bedroom flat. And they told us, we aren't going to be able to move you guys in at the date that we said that we'd want to move you guys in because there's been an issue with the property. So we were meant to move in the day after I'd got back from Nigeria, but they pushed back the date by a week. It sucks. I mean, we've got things to do, but what can we do? Anyway, I'd got back from Nigeria and we just got a random email from the scheme and they were like, congratulations, we'd love to proceed with you on this scheme. And I kid you not, we were so shocked because, like I said, I didn't even think that we'd be eligible for the scheme in the first place. So the fact that we'd made it this far, whoa, God, I'm so thankful. But of course, the trouble was we'd put down all of this money for this 1-bedroom flat. Like the deposit, the first month's rent, that's a couple of grand and I'm not ready to walk away from a couple of grand. And we were literally about to move into the flat in a few days. Like I said, I've just come back. They told us a week. A week was about to be up. But this is why God is such a good God. He oversees everything. A day before we were meant to move into the flat, the letting agency calls us back and they say, hi guys, I know we'd moved your moving date a little bit back, but we're actually here to let you know that I don't think that moving date is going to be going forward anymore at all because there's been extensive water damage in the property. So because we don't think you guys can move in at all, we just like to give you back your deposit and your first month's rent. You don't think I looked in the sky, looked at God and say, Big G, I know what you're doing. Let me tell you about this flat that we just been approved for. It was a 3-bedroom flat. It was in zone 2. It was spacious as heck. And it was cheaper than the 1-bedroom flat that we were just about to move into. I could have cried. In fact, I did cry because I knew it was God. For me, this testimony is a constant reminder of a few things about God's character and his ability. God is a provider. He not only meets you at your point of need, but he exceeds your expectation because that's what he did for us. We were happy. Well, we were content with our 1-bedroom flat, but God said, don't worry, babes. I've got something for the both of you. God really has a plan and he intends to provide for you whilst you're on the journey that he's sent you on. And I truly believe my obedience to quit my job led to this blessing. He literally made provision for what was about to be our future. He knew I was about to be a full-time content creator. We needed space. But most importantly, he knew that A few months later, after we moved into the home, we were going to be pregnant. And let me tell you something. We could not have raised that baby in that flat, okay? Unless we had plans for the baby to sleep in the bathtub. God really does care about it all. He really does. Now, waking up in this flat is a daily reminder of God's goodness in my life and his infinite ability to provide. Something that was going to be super important for this next phase of my life, which was going to be pregnancy. And this is why